Hello, everyone. Welcome to WD Carousel podcast. My name's Ian,
And I'm Crystal.
and we're going to continue our discovering series because it's our
We're not,
favorite thing.
and we're not done with Magic Kingdom yet. We're still in
No.
quarantine, so we
Yes.
might as well just keep doing our little jaunt around Magic Kingdom.
Yes.
Reliving it vicariously through our memories, and then giving it to you all to experience as well.
Yes, with some tidbits as we find them.
Annotations.
Annotations, yes, commentary.
Which is the whole reason why you listen to us anyways, let's be honest.
Yeah, exactly. So
Banter.
Banter.
So, we are working on Fantasyland now, and we are still progressing around the park clockwise. And we are going to cover today just a small little area that is known as the Castle Courtyard.
Right, which is interesting because before we started working on Fantasyland, I did not know that they had gone that deep on these different zones, which it makes sense when you look at it, but I just kind of figured there was like old Fantasyland and new Fantasyland, not like
Same.
like three distinct areas. I wasn't expecting that.
But I mean, it kind of makes sense when you're talking about the refresh that happened, and we'll get into that a little bit more. And definitely we'll be covering that in the following Fantasyland version of Discovering again. But this one we're going to be taking from the Liberty Square entrance.
Yes.
All the way up through pretty much the castle backyard area, hence the courtyard. There are these two castle walls that are built up a little ways out from the courtyard area that segregate it, and that's pretty much where we're cutting off and stopping. Okay. So everything else that we're going to discuss is going to be found in that general vicinity.
Which is actually quite a few things.
Yes.
So, to be honest.
And it also has the most history, too, which is why we're deciding to take two of the other two areas, the Enchanted Forest and Storybook Circus, and combine them into one episode, the following episode that we're going to be doing regarding this, because those are pretty much all new attractions and or don't have a lot of history built up into them, and this has quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so the other thing with Fantasyland, just kind of getting into the background of Fantasyland, obviously Disneyland had a Fantasyland because that was kind of a core to the being of the Disney properties. But
Disney
instead of being
at all
the fantastical version of Fantasyland like that was in Disneyland, they were looking for kind of more of a historical look, kind of more following a more accurate time period than Disneyland.
Yeah. And I mean, since I've been to both, I can speak to that a little bit. So when you are behind Sleeping Beauty's castle in Disneyland, you're going to find that it is ride after ride and they're backed up. And obviously the square footage of Fantasyland is a lot smaller, so they have a lot more that they need to jam pack into it. And so they've just compiled all of these stories that everybody loves because that's what they were trying to do when they opened up Disneyland. And honestly, of the entire park that is Disneyland as well as the Magic Kingdom, this is the one area that really harkens back to the movies that Walt produced and that had come out to that point. So it's the heart of Disney as we know it.
Right, absolutely.
And so in Disneyland, it was just boom, 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 boom. You're getting the theme from this movie, the theme from this movie, the theme from this movie, the theme from this movie. Here, they decided to take a step back and work with the flow, the historical flow that's already been established through Adventureland, Frontierland, Liberty Square, and then now into Fantasyland. And one of my favorite things to bring up regarding that is that walkway that you do underneath the Columbia Harbor House second story from Liberty Square into Fantasyland. From one side, from the Liberty Square side, it actually looks like a established building that is period accurate for the coverings. I believe it's like wood shank and it's blue and it's very respectful to the architecture at the time.
Right.
versus if you look from the other side, they're not the same. In fact,
Right.
it's the white walls with the um, cross wood structures that you're used to seeing in like German towns and that sort of
Yeah.
thing, and the opas. And I don't know, this is
Yeah.
a horrible description, but but I
I
just
understand.
I love how it's um, the same building. It's the same hallway, but from one direction you see again the theming from that one land, and then the other way
Right.
you're still able to continue on to there. And it's something
Right.
neat.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's a very classic Disney thing because you're looking at it from the Liberty Square side, you're looking at it from more of that like the colonial side, then you're looking at it from the Fantasyland side, you get that kind of more medieval kind of Renaissance vibe. That medieval and Renaissance are not the same time period. You know what I
No,
mean, though?
but in Fantasyland, it's like it'll range from anywhere,
Right.
just as long as it fits the fantasy
Story.
story feel.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what period appropriate it is, including the castle.
Right.
So just jumping into that real quick, we are going to cover the castle a little bit on this one. We didn't cover
Ooh.
it, or we didn't do the hub at all. I don't think we're going to
Mm-mm.
address the hub.
Mm-mm.
So this is the time that we're going to be talking about the castle. But even the castle starts out with like the big medieval stones at the bottom, and then works to like Gothic, romantic
Right.
spires and architecture up at the top. So even the castle itself is a myriad of different
Yeah.
time
It's
periods. So
sort of an anachronistic structure in terms of having no specific
exactly,
time or
exactly.
place.
But as long
Yeah.
as it fits within that fantasy, I mean, you
Yeah.
live your best fantasy.
You do you, Cinderella Castle. We're not going to
Yeah.
stop you. Yeah. There was something I was gonna say, and I don't know what it was. But
It's okay.
anyway, so as we were saying, the Castle Courtyard area is kind of the OG part of Fantasyland in the Magic Kingdom.
It's kind of the OG park of the part
Kind
of
of
the park.
OG part of the park. That's a good point. Yeah, that was really the first like real anything. um, so the plan for them was, and this is kind of true for a number of things in Walt Disney World in general, but they were not going to have it be like duplicates of the rides that you had in Disneyland. They were kind of thinking
Mhm.
it was going to be its own unique set of attractions.
Mhm.
So, which kind of to a certain degree makes sense, but in the end, it ended up not being what they did because of people wanting to be able to see the stuff that was in Disneyland
No,
on the other side of the
no.
country. But
No, that's not
you
it at
know,
all. It's because Roy O. Disney, once Walt died, was like, "I'm a penny pincher, and we're gonna, why should we reinvent the wheel? So we're gonna just do. They like it out there. Why wouldn't they like it over here? We already have them established. We know what
right?
formula works. We're just gonna do it. We're just
Well,
gonna do it."
was it penny pinching, or was it kind of almost more of a we want to play it safe? Because that was what I had read at some point.
Push
But I mean,
one,
maybe it
pull
was a
two.
bit
I
of
don't.
yeah, a bit of all of the
I
above.
mean,
Yeah,
at that
take
point in
take some of A,
time,
some of B.
Walt had passed, so
Right,
Roy was calling the shots, and
right,
so
right.
it's literally Roy, who's always been more financially minded than
Sure,
Walt,
sure.
um, taking over and helping make this park a creation, because this is not Walt's park. Walt
Right.
started it, but he did
Yep.
not survive long enough to be able to see it open,
Finish it.
because that was
Yep.
another, what, 4 years, 5 years later.
Yeah. Hmm.
So it's a lot of Roy making the decisions here. Roy O.
Sure.
Disney, brother of
Right.
Walt, not to
Yep.
be confused with his son Roy.
Son. Right.
So
Kind of.
we'll try and say
Yeah.
Roy O as much as
Oh.
possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is one where, like the original plans, they have 10 original attractions that were in the Fantasyland area, specifically the Castle Courtyard, because no other area existed at that
Yeah.
point in
Right.
time.
Right.
And of the ones that were there in Disneyland that they were going to bring over, and that Roy O actually did bring over, the Peter Pan ride, they were actually thinking about doing a Mary Poppins ride.
Okay.
For Mr. Toad's
Interesting.
Wild Ride, they were going to do an
Right.
Ichabod
Yep.
Crane
That
ride.
right.
And
Right.
then instead of Snow White's Scary Adventures, they were going to do a Sleeping Beauty ride. So those were ones that Roy O put the kibosh on and said, "We're not
Okay.
gonna invent the wheel. We're just going to
It's
redo these."
interesting. it's interesting too because those rides could have converted like pretty easily. I mean, like they did that later, I mean, much later with like the dinosaur versus Indiana Jones. Like it's the same. Like the functionality is very similar. Like to me, it seems like it would have made a lot of sense.
But they're totally different rides.
Oh,
Anyways,
of
that's
course,
another one
yeah.
for a
But
different
you know what
episode.
I mean though. Like
Yeah.
they were trying to do the same thing, and it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting that he just was kind of like no.
Yep. 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 Yep.
Yeah,
So,
I could see all sorts of different reasons as to if you lose the captain at the helm of the ship,
mm-hmm.
the first mate's like, let's just follow what we know works.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
yeah,
instead of doing our standard walkthrough where we had left off and walking you through, I think this is the appropriate time where when we start about talking about attractions, we start with the castle,
yeah, it
because
makes sense.
castle is number one in any park, and it is
Yes,
definitely the biggest weenie
yes,
that is here for the park. It stands at 189 feet. And I will
yes,
say it is the most successful form of force perspective within the
yes,
park.
yeah.
Next time,
It's
we'll talk about the worst. You know which one I'm talking about.
exciting. I think I do, but I'll have to double check later. Anyway,
We'll go over it
uh,
then.
yes,
But
but yeah,
so, starting with the castle
yeah,
was designed by Herb Ryman, which is the same man who also designed Sleeping Beauty's castle in
okay,
Disneyland, which is really kind of nice because then you have that same sort of visual continuity, as well
yeah.
as he assisted with the actual layout and how they were going
Oh,
to,
okay,
you know, figure out the visual story that is Fantasyland.
right,
So
right.
he was a big proponent to that, which is nice. Like I said, continuity between the two parks.
Yeah,
And, again, why reinvent the wheel? He did it right the first time.
the first time, yeah, and he still managed to make a different castle the second time. So
Much
that's
bigger.
something. Yes,
Do
and
you know?
I'm gonna do my little. What's that?
I was going to say, do you know why it stopped at
I
189
was
feet?
just about to mention that. That was gonna be my tidbit.
Go for it.
All
Cue
right.
it up.
It is, as I recall, it is due to the the FAA height restrictions on buildings. So if you go, I believe it's 200 feet, but I could be wrong.
Yes.
If it's 200 feet or over, you have to put one of those flashing navigation lights
Red
on the
blinking
top of it.
light.
Yeah, which would have really spoiled the mood.
What? Come on.
So they were
Nothing
like,
says
"Well, we want
Cinderella's castle like a
it has
neon
to look
blinking light.
like a big blinking light." So yeah, they basically tried to make sure it was clocked just under, so they would be able to forego that. In the end, it was kind of weird anyway because all of the Disney World property is a no fly zone. That's a separate issue entirely.
No, but they still have to fit with government guidelines
Yes,
regardless
absolutely.
of. So,
Regardless of the status, yeah, absolutely,
and it's not even like
absolutely.
they could turn off the light during the day.
No, it's just be sitting up there flashing all the time.
Yep.
That would
That's
be
not
terrible.
attractive.
No, not at all.
So, one of the things that you can do occasionally, now I'm going to say occasionally because there are different like celebrations and events and things that happen around the castle that they block it off often, but you can walk through the castle
Yeah.
from the hub to the Fantasyland courtyard that we're talking about. And
Yeah.
you will find a coat of arms above each entrance to the castle, so that little breezeway through. And
Yep.
that coat of arms on both sides is the actual Disney family crest.
Okay.
So I think it's kind of, I mean, he named the park after himself. We know that this is going to be like Walt Disney's thing, but I was just
Right.
kind of like,
Right.
oh, you're really stamping even that on
Yeah.
there. I
I
mean, I get it,
believe
but
I believe that the drawbridge in Disneyland also has the coat of arms somewhere on it.
it might. I mean, I haven't looked
Yeah.
into that yet.
Yeah, I haven't.
Future
Again, these are
episode.
just like Ian's random tidbits floating around in my brain. Who knows how correct they are?
Mm-hmm.
Woo! It's always exciting when we're just
And
flying.
then
Anyway.
as you're walking through, you're going to notice all of these tile mosaics. There are 5
Yeah.
huge tile mosaics on the wall that are depicting the story of Cinderella. And they were
Yeah.
originally designed by Dorothea Redmond. And
Okay.
the tile mosaic was made with over 500 different color tiles, including 14 karat gold and real silver. So
Whoa.
they're super neat to look at. I've taken way too many pictures of them. Um,
Yeah, no, they're super cool. I can attest to that in the Dropbox folder. There's lots of. They are really amazing though.
mm-hmm. I mean, even the stepsisters, they have one that is red with anger, and the other one is tinged green with jealousy. So, like, if you
Wow.
look at the stepsisters' faces, regardless of which of the 5 mosaics that you're looking at, one
Yeah.
of them is tinged slightly red, and the other one's tinged slightly green,
Wow.
which is kind of fun.
That
And then
detail
the
stuff.
fun fact that I learned while I was doing this, because
Oh
nobody ever
no.
talks about this sort of thing, the actual person who installed the mosaic, his name is
Yeah.
Hans Johanich Scharf. Okay,
Okay.
mouthful,
Bless
German.
you. Yeah. Yeah.
He used to be a Nazi interrogator. He was known as a master interrogator against Nazis. And
Oh,
then
against Nazis. Okay, I was
when
about to ask. I'm
when
like, okay.
he when he retired from being a master interrogator, he went to making mosaics and made the mosaics in there.
Wow. So basically, he was like literally like a guy who like interrogated Nazis through World War
Yes.
II and then went on to
Yes.
become like a master mosaic tiler guy.
No, master interrogator.
Well, like, but like
He's the
after
most
that.
I don't know. I can't confirm if he was a master mosaic installer, but
But like, who gave him his number? Like, I don't know.
I don't know.
Who's just like,
But
oh, I
like
got a guy.
but he was known for being a master interrogator because he did not use physical interrogation.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, I can't really see Disney being like, "Oh yeah, we're going to get that guy that can make anybody talk in any way possible to lay these tiles."
Yeah,
But
wonderful.
no, he was a master interrogator because he didn't use any physical interrogation. He was
Wow.
just able to
He was all psychological.
correct and
Wow.
got the master interrogator title, which I thought was like super unique.
Wow.
So cool.
That
And it's
is
also
that's such a random thing.
is. This is also the piece of art, the only piece of art on Magic Kingdom property that is a permanent structure that has been signed. All the other ones, whether it be murals, whether it be other work, it doesn't matter. It's just Disney. This is the only piece, and I
Oh.
heard this through one of the backstage tours that I've taken before, that it
Oh,
is the
wow.
only piece to be signed.
Interesting. And is that by Dorothea who
I think
signed
so.
it?
I think
Or
so.
okay. Interesting. I wonder where that is. That's fascinating.
I think it's. I
Hmm.
can point it out to you next time I'm there.
Okay. I'm excited. I'm looking forward
I'll
to
just
it.
be like, there, Ian. You're gonna be like, what? And I'm gonna be like, that's the
What?
signature.
Remember like 12 episodes ago, 14
Yeah.
episodes ago? I'm like,
Oh,
oh, yeah.
last year when we were, talking about this because we couldn't get there until now.
Right.
This is also the only structure that can be seen up to 2 miles away. So you can actually see this from the Ticket and Transportation Center, which is
Okay.
a fun little weenie, because if there's going to
Yeah.
be one weenie for the Magic Kingdom, it is going to
Kingdom
be
to
the
be.
castle.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Excellent. All right. So that is the castle, and we're going to walk through it. Are we just doing the walkthrough as we go? Is that what's happening? Or
Sure. Yep.
starting at the
We've already
castle?
covered
All
all
right.
of the stuff inside of it for right now.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll find
So,
more later.
oh, I'm sure. That's how we roll. We're not ever going to give up on like saying that we're ever done with the topic because
Oh
like we
no.
could come back to it at any time, any episode. Don't worry about it. We'll get there.
Yeah. There's even stuff inside of it. We haven't talked about the stuff inside. We
Inside
just
of
talked
it.
about the
I
physical
know.
structure of the castle.
I know. And you guys will have to
Moving
tune
on.
in whenever we decide to talk about the castle again. Sorry, we're terrible.
Tag, you're it.
Tag, you're it. All right, sounds good. Cool. So now we're moving on to Small World.
That is not in the order,
not
but
the
we'll go with
closest
it.
thing.
We
We're
are
just gonna
totally
fly
gonna
in
rock
a
with it.
helicopter and we're
Do
just
it.
gonna glide around
We're gonna have to get in a
Fantasyland.
helicopter to get over the crowds of people just to get to Small
Yeah.
World. This is also like one of the biggest choke areas that you will find.
It is.
If you want to know how dense the population is in Magic Kingdom right now for tourists, walk through the area between Small World and Peter Pan's Flight. And
Yeah.
that will let you know how crowded the park is today.
Yeah, because it is Yeah. I remember there's been a couple of times where we've had to like try to get through there for, I don't think we were going to visit either of those attractions because it was like midday and like, why would we be over there? But we had to cross something and it was absolutely one of the most horrifying,
Yeah.
horrifyingly busy things I've ever
Yeah.
seen. But yeah,
If you
yeah,
can
anyway,
bypass
so
it, because you can bypass it,
pass it. Yeah,
do so
do it.
if
Please
possible.
do. Please do if you can. Don't do what I did. I think I was like over there, so it seemed like the easiest thing to do, but I won't do that again. That was
Yeah.
anyway.
Okay, so
Bad
on to
thing.
Small World.
Small World. Yes. So when
Which
you
have we done an episode on
yes,
Small World before? I feel like we have.
I honestly don't
I
know.
know we've talked about it a lot.
We've talked about it. We've talked about it in the best attraction series.
And we've talked about
That's
it
the
with the
only time we talked about
females
it.
of Disney with Mary Blair.
Yeah.
We gave her just a quick little shout out.
Yes.
So, but I'm not sure if we did an
Yes.
actual Small World episode yet.
So
Keep
that's
an
going
eye
on the
out
list.
if you have.
Yeah. It's like, go ahead and hit that subscribe and like bell.
So Small World.
It's a Small World. Yeah, so it looks different than the one in Disneyland, which is outdoors. This one is not outdoors. But it's exposed to it's open air, but it's covered and it's supposed to look like a maternity pavilion. Like I know what this is like oh god, help. Attorney pavilion. Like
Jousting.
jousting.
Tent.
That's the word I was looking for, was jousting, and I could not find it.
It's like 2 words over.
Oh. Ah. I had to scroll, you guys. I had to scroll.
These are notes that we've both compiled, so it's like half my speak, half Ian's speak.
Right.
So
right.
That's why
we're always bouncing around.
Yes.
In case we've ruined the magic for you.
Being like, oh, here's another tidbit. I'm just going to toss this in here. And I am notorious for making things out of order, which is why we're all of a sudden in Small World instead of the castle.
Right.
They blame Crystal.
Don't blame Crystal. Just, it's a group effort. Crystal wrote it up, and Ian's just plowing through it straight through, foot on the gas.
So jousting pavilion,
it's a group effort.
Yes,
Jousting pavilion.
Turnies,
Anyway, boogie
jousting.
boarding. Jousting pavilion. So yeah, there's like, and I can't remember this now. You actually see the lances holding up the actual pavilion roof, or they appear to, and that's holding up that main area, and then you would go in and you can see down into the boat loading area down below,
where they have the Mary Blair wall.
With the Mary Blair wall, yes. And I remember last time I walked around the back of it, it's very plywoody, and I always forget how plywoody is on the back. But anyway, I'm sure we will go into more detail in a actual
episode,
Small World episode, because there's a lot. That's a very storied attraction with a long and colorful history.
What was it like last time I looked before all of the pandemic happened? Like Small World had a longer wait time than Haunted Mansion, was it?
That is bizarre.
I know it's bizarre, but I feel like I remember showing you and being like, "Oh my gosh, look at this!"
Yeah, you did show me. It's like I guess it's just that iconic, but like you could. I don't know. Yeah, that's Crazy Land.
They were also editing the queue and all of this, but
sure.
General thing, it has over 300 animatronics. It's not the original 1964 World's Fair edition. That one's still in Disneyland, but this is a remake. It doesn't have as many rooms. We'll get into that another episode if we haven't already.
Yes, indeed. Moving on, we got Peter Pan's Flight, which is actually fairly close by.
It's across like the hallway. I want to call it a hallway. It's an open air hallway.
Sure feels like a hallway.
Oh gosh, it is so close together.
It's one of the closest areas in Magic Kingdom. Like, I know we were just talking about that, but like in terms of like other spaces, I don't even know that there are that many spaces that are that narrow.
The only other one that I can think of that's slightly like that is in Adventureland. When you're going between the Leaky Tikis and the Magic Carpets of Aladdin, that's the only area that is semi-close.
Right,
in comparison.
But it doesn't. I think you're right. I think it's pretty close in terms of like actual tightness, but like I just don't think there's ever as many people right there.
Like foot distance, yes, but as far as people just sitting there and standing, because they're all waiting for Peter Pan.
Yup. Peter Pan's Flight, man.
I
I've
mean,
known that one
okay,
so long.
it's a good ride.
It
Don't
is a
get me
really good
wrong.
ride.
It's an
It's
opening
gorgeous.
attraction ride. It's
Yep. Yep.
beautiful. It doesn't make sense why it's an hour and a half.
No, it doesn't. And it's not that long. It's just like I don't know. I could see like I could do like a good like 30 minutes. Like I'd have no problem waiting 30 minutes for it. Like, oh, okay, that's not too bad. But like when you get up into that like 50-hour, like it just gets to be like this was a quick ride.
It's an
Um,
omnimover with not even moving animatronics. It's just like,
the old
a
school ones.
still model, a still model, a
Yeah.
still model, a still model. I mean, I still love it. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
I will only fast
Yeah.
pass that thing or rope drop that thing. I will not waste my
Not
time.
wait.
Even after they
Yeah.
made the queue walkthrough interactive,
Right.
which has just been done in the last couple years, so you can like play with shadow bells and like tinker bells flying around and all this other stuff to keep you entertained,
Right.
it's not worth the hour and a half.
Right.
No.
Yeah, that's yeah.
But there are three. There, the only interesting thing that I'm going to bring up about it right now is that there are three weather vanes. Yes, I'm bringing up weather vanes.
Wait, on the roof of the
On
building?
the roof of the building, there are
Okay.
on the rest of the courtyard, the castle
Mhm.
courtyard. There is not a single
Mhm.
weather vane, but this building has three. The first one looks like Captain Hook's pirate ship. The
Okay.
next one is set up to look like TikTok the Croc chasing
Oh
after. So,
yeah,
I mean, it
that's
kind of makes
right.
sense that you're going to have TikTok coming after Hook. And
Yep.
then the
Yep.
third one is a flag with a crown in the middle to emphasize and show
You're
that you are now
yeah.
in Fantasyland. You
Sealand.
are no
Yes.
longer in Liberty Square. You are in Fantasyland. Like
Fantasyland.
you couldn't
Quite.
tell ahead of time.
Yeah, and then from there we've got
We jump over
jump. We jump
another
over. We hop,
transaction,
skip, and jump.
another
This is how
attraction.
we're rolling.
Yep.
Yeah. To Prince Charming's Real Carousel, which I maybe was on when I was 10. I don't know.
I,
That's
I go on it almost every time I'm there.
really
Yeah.
nice.
It's such a harkening back to Walt for me because that's where
Mm,
the idea of theme parks started. Walt had
sure.
brought his kids to ride the carousel,
Right.
and it's from there that they were able to come up with this magical world. And at Disneyland, they actually have the bench from Griffith Park that he came up with the idea at. But here, they still
Oh,
have a carousel, and they're going to have a carousel in every single park
Still Park. Yeah.
to bring that memory. But this is also, I love it because it's not a new carousel. This is a carousel that was made in
Right.
1917, and they
Right.
still are trying to keep that history and that magic alive. The carousel's name was originally called the Liberty Carousel. It was found in New Jersey at a
Okay.
little seashore shanty area, and it didn't have a lot of horses, and the horses weren't as detailed because they'd been painted over. But as soon as
Brought it
Disney
in.
acquired the carousel and started stripping all the horses, they realized how detailed each one of these horses are, and they're all
Oh wow.
individual. Like there's not a duplicate on there at all.
Oh
There's almost like
wow.
90 horses on there.
Wow.
And so
Yeah,
what
that's
they've done
amazing.
is they got rid of the chariots in like at the beginning of when they opened this park, but then they did put one of those chariots back in like 1997 for ADA reasons, which is what I
Okay.
ride because I can't get on a horse. But every
Right.
single one of the horses on there is a white horse. It's one of the hero horses. So
Okay.
that way it doesn't matter if you're, you know, a male or female, you can ride your white stallion. And they all
Yes.
have their separate color palettes. They all have their separate, scrollings and markings. And there's even
Right.
one in the second row that has a gold ribbon around it that is rumored to be Cinderella's. So if you
Oh,
wanted to go
cool.
ahead and do that or ride Cinderella's horse, you can. And then my
Okay.
favorite fact that I learned about this while I was doing one of my backstage tours again was that
Yeah.
when they had installed the carousel, the builders and everything, so it was already all established.
Yeah.
Roy was looking at the castle and saw that the carousel was off by a couple feet. It was not
No.
centered. And he
No.
said Walt would want it centered. And so this is where
Oh
Roy did
no.
not skip a couple pennies. He actually made them
No.
take up the entire ancient carousel, the 1917s carousel, and center it to the walkway through the castle. So that way, when you look through the castle, you see the center of the carousel.
Oh my god. Wow. I
So
mean, absolutely, that's definitely a Walt thing to do.
mm-hmm.
But
That
wow.
Roy was like, okay, Walt wouldn't have let me get away with this, so let's just do it. We're just gonna do it. We're gonna do it.
Oh man, that is crazy.
And then
Yeah.
the other actual attraction thing
Yeah.
is the PhilharMagic, which is in between Peter Pan's flight and then the carousel. And what that is there's actually been a couple different incarnations of this theater. So going into the
Yeah.
former attractions area, I'm jumping ahead here because I always
Yeah,
do.
you
There was a Mickey Mouse review there until 1980. And then when
Okay.
that left, it went to Magic Journey until 1993, which then
Okay.
moved over to Epcot. And
Epcot,
then
about to say.
that
Yep.
area became the Legend of the Lion King until 2002. And then
Okay.
after 2002, it became PhilharMagic. And PhilharMagic is what we know it as now. It is a musical tribute to Fantasia and Make Music Mine, two
Music, yep.
movies that were very heavily music influenced. There is 3D visuals, there's smell-o-vision, there's all this different stuff going on in there. It's indoors, it's air conditioned, it's a great place to just sit down. I even brought you with when we were doing
Yep.
one of the Halloween shows just to sit down and get out of the crowds.
Yeah. They were showing old cartoons in there. It was
Yeah,
really
it was
good.
showing Ichabod Crane,
Yeah,
Sleepy
it was.
Hollow.
Yes, indeed.
But that's the only
Yes,
other
indeed.
attraction, quote unquote.
Gotcha.
There are a couple meet and greets through there, as well
Greets.
as the
Right.
Princess Fairy Tale Hall, but those
Right.
are character meet and greets, if you want to talk about
Yes.
that.
I mean, there much to talk about?
So Princess Fairy Tale Hall.
Fairy Tale Hall.
Let me
I've never even like looked at it directly. Like I don't even know that I
but
could
that's
point
but
it out
that's
to you.
where the Snow White Scary Adventures used to be. That's the
Mm.
actual building. And so
Okay.
when they closed down Snow White Scary Adventures, it became a princess meet and greet. There are two sides, but when you're looking at the outside, the marquee looks like a giant tiara because, princesses. And
Of
then there
course.
are tons of shields on the walls, and they represent the different princesses with an item, whether it be an apple for Snow White or, that sort of thing.
Okay. Okay. So it's almost
Currently,
sort of it's sort of like a princess headquarters.
yes, and the princesses rotate. They're
Okay.
currently Now I'm saying currently, and nobody's been there for the last couple of months, but
Right.
one side is Tiana and Rapunzel, the other side is Cinderella and Elena. I have
Okay.
met Ariel there before. I have met they rotate, so you're just gonna have to see
Okay.
who's out and available, and they have that before you even enter in.
Okay.
So if you want to be character focused on your trip, this is a good place to do it. There's
Nice.
also down and around the corner, and I'm talking way down. So at the castle, if you're facing the castle, head down the left walkway almost to Tomorrowland. There is the meet and greet with Merida. And then
Yep.
behind you at the big castle walls, normally you'll see the evil stepsisters for an
Nice.
impromptu meet and greet, or sometimes the
Okay.
fairy godmother. So there are character meet
Okay.
and greets around the area. This is a heavily concentrated character meet and greet location.
Right. Right. Lots of character activity over there.
If you want to meet your princesses, it's the perfect place.
Exactly. Well, very cool. All right. Do we want to go through old attractions, or do we want to
Sure.
move on to other stuff? We
Well,
can do
let's
that
do the
first.
just
All
list
right.
them off, anyways.
All right. So this is interesting because this attraction is still existing, but it just used to be in the Castle Courtyard area, and then as we mentioned, there was the big expansion. Dumbo the Flying Elephant used to be in that area because again, it was the only area for Fantasyland, so they just moved it out to free up some space in there because Dumbo the Elephant takes up some space.
Yes, and we'll talk about that in the next one.
Next one, yeah, absolutely.
Same with Mad Hatter Tea Party because that one has been moved as well, and so that
Yeah,
will be in the next zoning that we discuss.
Yes. And Snow White's Scary Adventure was removed in 2012. As we'd mentioned previously, it has been replaced with the Princess Hall that I forgot the full name of already.
It's okay. Fairy tale. You
Oh,
missed the word
fairy
fairy tale.
tale. Fairy tale.
Okay.
I knew I was missing a word.
You're fine.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I did that one when I was very young, and it was actually kind of scary.
It is scary. That's why
It's a
they
scary
they
attraction.
didn't actually originally call it Scary. It was just Snow White's Adventures, and
Oh,
then
really?
eventually, I think it was
Okay.
like 1990 something, that they
Oh
changed it
my
to Snow
god.
White's Scary Adventures to warn the parents that this was
Okay, because
possibly a
like
scary
honestly,
attraction.
I probably went in 1990 something, so it was probably right around that time they changed it.
Oh, watch out.
Watch out there, Mr. Ian. You're not gonna like this one, okay? All right.
No.
Uh huh. And then Mr. Toad's Wild Ride
Which
is
we
one
do
that
have an episode on, so
we
if you
do.
want to hear about
Yes,
that, go check
and
that
that
out.
one does still exist in Disneyland. So
Correct.
Crystal has actually ridden that one,
Yeah.
which is cool. And that's a cult classic, Mr.
Mhm.
Toad's Wild Ride. And that is now Winnie the Pooh, right? Or am I
Correct.
thinking incorrect?
Nope,
Yes. Okay.
correct.
Excellent.
Which now resides in a different zoning, which we'll talk about next time.
Yes, indeed. And then I'm just rolling through these. Sorry.
Nope, you're fine.
Okay. Then there's Skyway to Tomorrowland. I always wanted to ride the Skyway. It bums me out that I think my parents were like, "Why, Ian? Why would we do that?" And then I was little, and I'm like, "It's a vehicle on a cable, and it's cool." And my dad's like, "I have a fear of heights."
Me too.
So yeah, so we never did that. But it was crazy because you could see the fantasy. I believe you could see the Fantasyland uh exit point for a really long time, and I'm trying to remember where it was, but there was, I think it maybe got covered up by something.
Well,
I
the
read this.
the entrance for it is now the Tangled bathrooms.
It was okay. It was. I remember it had something to do with the Tangled bathrooms, but I
Yes.
think they actually removed like there was the superstructure was up, like it was there for like a crazy long time. Like
Mhm.
it
It
was
took a
like they
long
closed
time
at
to get down the
99.
infrastructure.
Yeah, like it was like they took down all the pylons like for the main part of the attraction, but then they left the station structure in some form or another for like it was like until like 2006. You have to quote me on that, but it was like a way longer than you would expect it to be. It was a pretty long time just to have this like random thing where it's like, what's that? No one knows.
I think
Okay.
same thing for Disneyland too, so it's
Yeah.
just to be
Yeah.
expected. Also, if you hear purring, it's because my baby boy Pugsley decided that he's going to join us on the podcast.
Oh, sweet. We got a
Yeah.
we got a Pugsley cameo.
Yeah.
Last time he just meowed really loud and left.
Another ride that had big impact was 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Yeah.
That is closed. It was closed in 1994. And there is a lot of unknown speculation around why it closed because it was super popular, but
Yeah.
it just didn't open again one year. I mean, the Skyway to Tomorrowland unofficially closed. Like they couldn't say that this was the reason that it closed, but it closed because one of the hi Pugsley, hi. One of the workers actually died cleaning it.
Died.
Yep.
Yep. Yep.
But 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, they're thinking it was an ADA thing, but they're not able to confirm that.
Okay.
And then we talked about the Mickey Mouse Revue, the Magic Journey,
Yep.
and the Legend of the Lion King as being part of the past Philharmagic area shows. And
I
then
feel
there
like
was
Philharmonic sometimes.
it's crazy. And then there was a story time with Belle and Apu's Playful Spot, which are both technically closed, but have become bigger things now that we will be discussing in the next show.
Got it.
So let's get to
Very
dining.
cool.
As
Dining.
he decides to climb all the way up my shirt. Like if you're watching the video right now, he is totally like licking my face and licking the
Maybe you guys.
microphone.
Maybe this would be this one would be worth watching, you guys. You should
I don't
really get
know.
that
He's just a
YouTube link.
weirdo. But anyways, we're talking about dining now,
We're
and
talking about dining. Yes. So as Crystal's dealing with Pugsley, so Cinderella's Royal
Are you
Table
hungry?
is a character meet and greet, and that is in the castle,
Correct.
which is pretty neat. Not to mention the fact that that is also a video you actually did a review on this.
Yes, we did.
And I'll put, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to put this link up here somewhere. I don't remember which side that it shows up on,
I
but
don't know. It's
anyway, it'll be up
from
there.
my area. It would be up there. Is my question, my guess. But okay, thank you,
Yeah,
Pugsley. Yes, move that microphone closer to
helpful.
my mouth. I'm gonna actually put you down now. Okay, love you. Bye. Okay.
Bye.
Ow!
Yes.
He just
So,
nibbled on me. He's like, I
well,
wasn't done yet, Mom. Okay. Anyway, so Cinderella's
moving on.
Royal Table. They have
Yes.
an option for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. All
Yes.
three are character meet and greets. So you'll
Yes.
be able to see like 5 princesses wandering.
Mm-hmm.
It normally takes about an hour for you to rotate and see all of the princesses, as well as there is an individual sort of photo op, not quite necessarily a meet and greet because it happens so quickly with
Right.
Cinderella before you even get up to the restaurant. But the restaurant's on the second floor. You overlook the backside of the castle and the carousel and all of that fun stuff. And it's expensive and
Yeah.
it is hard to get reservations. So if you really want to do it, this
Mm-hmm.
is when you want to utilize either a Disney travel planner or be there on 180 days out and book that thing.
Snipe it quick. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then there is Pinocchio's Village House, spelled Germanly. Um, Germanly,
House.
like as in House
House.
of Gaga. Sorry, uh, what's wrong with me?
Yeah,
But
I don't know.
that's
At this point,
mostly,
we're getting
and we're.
silly.
I know we are. We're going all over the
And
place.
this is only one little
Uh,
zone.
I know
We knew
this
this was going to
is
be a long one,
Fantasyland's
though. It's
crazy.
fine.
I know. Yeah, you guys are. If you're still with us, thank you.
Pinocchio Village House, though, is a 2-story restaurant that actually overlooks Small World on the interior. So if you
Hmm.
want to see the boats take off, you can eat your flatbread while you were watching that. And yeah, their
Yeah,
flatbreads are mediocre.
good to know. Heard it here first. Maybe you didn't, but if you did, they're mediocre.
Across the hallway again, aisle, I don't know. Next to not Cinderella's, oh goodness, Fairy Tale Hall, Princess Fairy Tale Hall. There is the
Sorry.
Friar's Nook, and that has hot dogs and mac and cheeses, artisan mac and cheeses. So if you want to have specialty sort
Ooh.
of stuff, you can have that there. And then next to
Ooh.
that is Storybook Treats, which is their ice cream, and that's where I got my Maleficent cone.
Yes.
A little bit back
Excellent.
when I could still
Yeah.
go to the parks.
Yeah. Oh. Makes me sad. All right, let's talk about shopping.
Sounds good.
Okay. So with shopping, Castle Couture, is that in the castle? I feel like it is.
No, that is actually
No.
across the hall. I'm just going to call it a
Oh,
hall. I
the
don't
hall.
know.
Yeah,
They're all just
exactly.
small little
I
cross
know it's
areas,
so little
but
narrow.
it is attached to the Philhar Magic Building. It's the one that faces the
Okay.
castle.
Got it.
Um, but it's the one where you can have like pictures taken and buy extra dresses and that sort of thing for the Bibbidi Bobbidi
The
Boutique,
Bobbity
which can
Boutique
be found inside the
in the
castle. It's one of the
castle.
few
Okay.
doors that you can actually access within the castle.
Yep.
And that one you need to normally have reservations for. It is for children, not for
Yes.
adults. And
Yes.
they will make up your child to dress like whatever princess to whatever monetary level you're able to afford.
Ford. Yeah. I really enjoyed. I don't know for sure, but I have seen where they've had boys dress up as like Aladdin and stuff, or like one of the other.
I mean, I know they
I
have a
swear I've
pirate
seen it.
one in
Is it a pirate
Adventureland
one? Because I
area.
know that they. I feel like there was something that they could do, like where it was like with, like for example, like you had a couple of siblings and like the boy just had to deal with it while the all the girls got ready, like it's like what do I do? I feel like they did something. I remember it being kind of cool, but I didn't investigate that, so I
Yeah.
feel like this was, but
Well,
in
and
my
like
head I
it's
remember that being like, oh, they did a thing and it's cool and he looks like he was into it. That's neat.
yeah, I mean, I know there's a pirate area for boys,
Right.
but
Right.
not here.
Not here. Right.
Then the Fantasy Fair is the gift shop that is at the end of Philhar Magic. You're going to see a statue of Donald coming out of a tuba and lots of
Classic.
musical
Instruments.
instruments.
Nailed it.
Bleh. Um, because, it's music themed and that's the attraction. And then
Yes.
the other one is Sir Mickey's, which is, again, across the hall. I'm just going to call it that. It's
I
the
like it.
exit for one of the Princess Fairy Tale Hall meet and greets. I believe
Got it.
it's the side that has the Cinderella and Elena meet and greet. I
Okay.
love it because it's Mickey being the um, Jack and the Beanstalk, and so they have the giant
Oh, fun.
literally opening up the roof when you're inside. You can see like the
Oh,
giant's
cool.
eye and like his fingers holding up the roof and like
Oh,
beanstalks
cool.
rolling inside of it and everything. So it's a fun
Wow.
little like Imagineering addition
Yeah.
that they're
Yeah, like
able to do,
architecturally, it's
where we've
cool.
talked about, historical things that they've added to other areas. This is one of the ones
Right.
that they were able to really harken in on a Mickey short
Yeah.
and bring it to life, which is really kind of fun.
Yeah. That's super cool. Yes. So other like things you can find
In
in
that
there,
area,
in that area, in that hallway.
in
No,
general vicinity.
in general vicinity. The Fountain of Cinderella, which I
It is
don't.
across
Where
the
is that?
castle from, it's near the Castle Couture area. It is
Okay,
for like drinking fountain station, but it's also its own little fountain area, and it has a
got it.
statue of Cinderella, and painted on the back wall is a crown, and it's supposed to like make you feel like the rags to riches moment and give
Got it.
inspiration to a child. So when you're at a child's height, or if you're kneeling or bending over as an adult, you can see the crown line up with Cinderella's head.
Ella's head. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of a fun thing. That's on
Yeah.
the if you are looking at the castle from the courtyard side, it's on the right hand side that
Okay.
walks directly down to the hub area. It's a
Okay.
bypass for the bottleneck that we were talking about for
About
Peter Pan and
yes.
Small World. So if you wanted to
Yes.
head to Liberty Square or anywhere else other than the Tangled bathrooms, which we might as well jump to,
Hmm.
there's
Yeah.
also the Tangled bathrooms,
Yes.
which are the number one most photographed bathroom photo op location within all of Disney property.
Yes. They are really cool. I think I've been in them once, but I usually it's always so busy that I'm like, I'll just
Well,
find somewhere
they
else.
are one of the bathrooms that actually has the most availability, the most options. Not to mention, they have really amazing theming. So they have the wanted posters of the band of, thieves and stuff that you find at the Snuggly
Right.
Duckling. They have a whole Pascal, search hide and seek area with like a waterfall. They have a whole like charging area where you can sit down. They have benches and stumps that have plugins there for like my ECV,
Oh,
or
nice.
your phone or whatever. I mean, it's just a nice
Yeah.
little rest spot. They have the lanterns that are strung across the overhead, as well as they actually have someone with the photo pass area bring a lantern out in front of the bathrooms for a Tangled photo op. So
Cool.
you can hold the lantern.
Nice.
They
That's
have a
cool.
forced perspective tower back there. I mean, it's a whole big
Yep.
thing.
It's a whole big thing. Oh
It's a whole
yeah.
big thing.
It's a complex
And that's near the haunted mansion entry, Liberty Square entry to
entry. Yep.
to
Yep.
Fantasyland.
Yep. Absolutely.
And then jumping back into the main courtyard area, there's the
Yes.
Sword in the Stone.
The stone. Yep.
And that one, they used to do a whole ceremony about, where they would have all of these kids line up, and whoever was able to quote unquote pull the sword from the stone was able to get like a certificate and a medal, and then they were the
Oh,
temporary
cool.
ruler of the realm for the day. um
Yeah.
Now it's a great photo op. I did it as Mad Madam Mim. Same
Oh
movie.
yeah.
Love it. We're just gonna make that
Yep.
connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, yeah,
Very
you want
good.
to talk about the
The
upstairs?
dream suite. Yeah.
Yes.
So there's Cinderella's Dream Suite, which is again one of those things that could be an entire thing onto itself because there's a couple of these in the
Probably
properties,
will
but
do an
probably
episode
will
regarding
do.
that, but not at this
Yeah.
point.
It is basically it's impossible to get and it's very
Yes.
expensive. It's basically an entire luxury kind of apartment basically. I mean, if you really think about it, without a kitchen probably, but everything else.
Hmm.
And it's in the castle like higher up and it's totally themed out. It's got multiple bedrooms and it's only one unit. So there's only one actual rentable space up there, and
It's not even rentable. This
or
was
you know what I
originally
mean?
meant to be Walt's apartment in the Magic Kingdom. So just like he has
Right.
an apartment over the firehouse in Disneyland, he wanted one in Disney World. And so they had this already in the works when they were building the castle prior to his death. They still decided to finish it up in the last 20 years, but before
Yep.
then they were even just using it as storage.
I think it was
And
a phone bank for a while.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
ridiculous,
It
but
was
now
weird.
you can't
Yeah.
even rent it. Like you have to be invited to
Yeah.
stay there, and like there's no dollar amount. You just Disney
Yeah.
has to be like, "I want you to stay here for an evening." And you're like, "Okay."
Right.
I mean, it's not
All right.
oh, sure, I'll stay there. So it's beautiful. There's lots of interior walkthroughs on YouTube. So if you want to take a look, I would highly recommend it. But it is an unattainable dream.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
And then
Uh,
following
yeah.
down the other walkway, like I said, to the Merida meet and greet, there is also the Cinderella's Wishing Well,
Yeah.
which, if you happen to see our Cinderella's Royal Table dining review, it's where
Yeah.
we were when we were just talking about it. So if you wanted to see a little bit of that, there's the Wishing Well there. It overlooks the hub. It's really pretty, but it's a nice, quiet little area.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Wow. That's
That is a
that's
long
that is
podcast.
that is a long episode. This is one of our probably our longest episode in like I don't know, maybe a
A
year.
long
So
time. And
long
this is
time.
just one area, which is why we were just like,
Yeah.
okay, we're going to do this little section right here
Yep. And then
before
we'll
we
keep
get to the
moving.
rest of Fantasyland, because
Yeah.
the next one's probably pretty much just going to be okay, this is here, this is here, this is here, this is here,
This is
this is
here.
this is the
It's gonna be a
theming, this is here, this is
sprint. You're just gonna have to chase us through. Well,
I'm gonna put
alrighty
my
then.
I'm gonna put my ECV on like Hyper Rabbit and just go
Yep.
driving through there. Just go.
Yep. Yep. And I'm just gonna do like a jog, like a light jog behind you. It'll be great.
But yeah, this is the Castle Courtyard area of
Yard. Yeah.
Fantasyland. And I know that the next one is going to be a lot more new attractions. So we will
Yes.
be letting you know what to expect in that area next.
All right. Well, there you go.
Yeah, this has been WD
Yeah.
Carousel of Podcast. My name's Crystal.
And I'm Ian.
And we hope you have a great, big, beautiful tomorrow. Bye, everybody.